If you're looking for an emerging small cap stock that's literally shattering the performance metrics of an old conventional industry, then you're going to love this interview with HPQ Silicon. Why? Silicon metal manufacturing is the largest emitter of CO2 on a per ton basis on the planet. HPQ Silicon is on the verge of shattering the manufacturing process of fumed silica, which is used in cosmetics, toothpaste, powdered foods, spices, but needs to burn silicon in the process. How disruptive is HPQ's process? Their reductions in greenhouse gases, energy consumption, and the complete elimination of hydrogen chloride gas led to the signing of a letter of intent with Evonik Corporation, a $10 billion company, and the inventor of fumed silica on July 9th, just last month. And today's press release, new data from fumed silica reactor commissioning shows additional significant drop in both energy use and carbon footprint. Here to talk about is Bernard Tourillon, CEO. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. In January, you had already announced the metrics that blew everybody away, that shattered the metrics for the production of fumed silica. So how important are these further gains where now you're delivering a 92% energy and 99.9% CO2 reduction in your process? How important are these incremental moves on shattering moves you've already announced?
George, they're earth shattering. There's no other way to say it. Okay, what we said in January was basically we recoup all the information we've been saying since the start of this project. I even mentioned this in the press release. In the sense the press release, we stated in 2021 when we started this project, we were talking about, we would be using that type of energy. So we hadn't played with the energy component, but the FSR by definition, okay, is using energy to transform quartz into fumed silica in one step. So energy consumption is massive. Okay?
Yeah.
But it is not until we reach this moment in time where it is, in our mind, we already know we're going commercial. Okay, so we're starting to think, okay, at commercial scale, because you can't, at commercial scale, what will be the energy need? Okay, so that's why it's so earth shattering. It's because, a lot of time when company presents their, this is what we're going to do, it's too good to be true, and then you get closer to doing it, the cost keeps going higher, it's not as good. All right,
you're getting better.
Yeah,
you're getting better as time goes on.
Exactly. As we get closer to as we get closer with all the data we know about the commercial scale, we know about scaling up, we know the size we're going to do, we know those issues. So as we get better, not only do we maintain those numbers, which are already earth-shattering, but we freaking beat them by an additional 20%. Okay? In this industry, the big one would have been gaga for 5% improvement. Okay? So, and why is this 20% so important to talk about it now? First of all, because we got the data now, because we're not just working on commissioning the pilot plant. We are already thinking, because we've signed the LOI, because there's requests for signing an offtake agreement, we have to start thinking about the commercial scales and the cost of making it. And energy consumption is the biggest cost that we're going to have to our process. So I thought that, this is an important news to come in to explain, to do to present. And basically, we wanted for ourselves internally to figure out, okay, what does that mean for us? Because since we published those numbers, okay, there's a series of events, positive events that have taken place. There's the conversion of PyroGenesis royalty to equity stake, which basically increase the profit margin of the fumed silica reactor. So it's all part of the process, but it's because of the commissioning work we're doing. And as part of that commissioning work, we are doing work to prepare it for us to do the costing. Because for us to sign an offtake agreement, we have to feel pretty damn confident about the costing of everything we're going to do. So now we feel pretty confident about those costs.
Now, you've reduced CO2 by 99.9%, right? So you're not going to be able to make any further gains there.
The term is we reduce it versus the material, okay?
Right.
Okay, 99.9, 99.2, 99.8, we're going to be 100% compared to the traditional process. Well, basically,
yes,
Look at the number.
That's so you're not going to make any more gains there, but you've reduced energy by 92. Is it possible you might even get more reductions in energy, or do you think you've maxed out? Because as you said, that's your biggest component. So every every gain you make on energy goes directly to the bottom line, right?
We believe that there is probably room for additional improvement in efficiency with regard to the energy consumption, but that we will know more after we finish the pilot plant, okay, and then we'd use those numbers to finalize the model for the commercial size plant. But the theoretical is 4.5 to 6, so it could be feasible to envision maybe another 10% improvement. But at this stage,
on that note, because you're throwing out numbers and there are going to be some new people watching for sure. My favorite graph ever, or chart, as the one that you released in January, and I've updated this press release. You want to bring that up on screen?
Yes, if I can find where the share button is, I'll do it with pleasure. There you go. You're seeing it now?
Yep, seeing it. So, let's there's the energy. I like the fact that you compared. You've got some January in there for comparisons, but let's kind of go all the way to the right-hand column and just kind of revisit this quickly. And what these numbers mean, not just for Evonik, but the entire. I know it's early. This is a morning interview. You put out this press release 3-4 hours ago, so it's obviously too early for any kind of feedback. But do you have any reason to think that the entire industry hasn't seen this already? You've got to be on the radar, given the LOI with Evonik, and that everyone's looking at this and saying, "My God, these guys are just improving their shattering metrics. They're not degrading. They're improving as they get closer and closer to, testing with Evonik."
From my experience with industrial people, okay, they're going to say, "Prove it." And this is really a show me moment, okay, and it's a bit like last year. I distinctly remember this moment when we presented our first press release about the fumed silica, and some people were saying, "Oh, there's nothing there seriously," and we showed the first picture of our fumed silica. And I remember at that time I was under NDA, so I couldn't divulge the name of the person, but I mentioned that one of the industrial persons said, "Oh, those images look very, very promising." Okay. Now remember, these are the guys that end up validating the material we made was basically of commercial grade. So it's about the same thing that we're doing here. We're sort of like starting to show where we think we're going to be at commercial scale based on more information. That's why we're really excited. I think actually one of my director of communication was surprised that in less than 2 hours we had 4,200 views on the press release on the distribution network, which is a lot for middle of August. When not too many people are there
prime
yet.
Vacation time in Europe and North America, that's for sure.
Oh, it's prime vacation time anywhere. It's like, it's amazing we get things done. Like and that's the key point. It's just as we get closer, okay, to making the fumed silica, this is really a step where we are telling the world, but I understand that the world's going to be like skeptical. And I think what some people don't understand is that some people that says, "You know what, I don't care if I pay 10 times more for the share price, but I want the risk to be reduced. I want this to be done." Okay. But this press release, this CO2 type of material comes because there's a demand from funds, okay, that are asking, green funds, okay, are telling us, "Okay, what differentiates you from the other one? Why are you not greenwashing?" Those type of things. How? Explain it to me in details. All right. But explain it to me in detail in 1 page. That's about how it works. That's
because it's easy to get lost in the details here and turn somebody dizzy if they're not aware with it, right? So it's like, let the number speak for itself. So does that mean you're talking to green funds, and then you have been?
I have some people talking to green funds, and in those type of situations, I can't show them information I don't show the market.
Yeah, of course. They didn't get this news last week, but
no. They're getting it. They're going to be getting it now. We're going to follow up with them. We were already talking about them about great results about January. Okay.
How would you
And that was already,
categorize the level of enthusiasm or the level of engagement that you've got with the green funds you guys are talking to? Is it are they like us, where like me? Look, I understand incremental and exponential metric improvement, and you guys are shattering. You're above that. Do they react the same way, or are they just as excited, or are they more reserved? How can you categorize maybe the level of engagement, enthusiasm with these green funds?
well, like with any funds, it's a long lead time, to come in. But the interest is there, and there are plenty of them. There's so much money on the sideline to say we want to reduce green emission. There's a lot of also retail investors that want to participate in this. Okay, so you have to be able to demonstrate that it's something. And the other thing that people have to understand is we're not saying that we're going to do this in 2030. Okay, this is in the process of being proven. As we said in our press release, by end of Q3, we'll be starting to making some fumed silica that we'll send to Evonik. That means the process is working. That means the technology works. That means we're already looking at scaling up. We're in our mind, okay, and when I say in our mind, I mean in my mind and the mind of people at Evonik, okay, it's a rite of passage that the technology is going to work, okay? And now we're starting to think how we're going to take a look at the commercial scale. But for us, we can't finalize the commercial until we have at least, gotten those numbers to the T. But they know, we have so much room of maneuver. We're talking about EBITDA margin now between 75 to 91%. That's unheard of for a mature industrial process.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
See, we sort of have
tech. Those are numbers you see for tech companies, right? Not for traditional industrial manufacturing. I mean, that's the third column, the kind of like the teal or light, whatever, out of whatever whatever that color is. But there it is, 75% on the low, 91% on the high. I mean, that's just the funds. So how they're enthusiastic. They're clearly
there is response. There is enthusiasm. There's enthusiasm, but there are also some going to say, okay, well, we don't have that much longer to wait until it's proven, so maybe we'll stay a bit on the sideline. It's the same thing. The reason why LOI signed the Evonik is they wanted to be the first one, but they didn't want the world to know they were the first one. But I said, hey, if you want to be the first one, you're going to let me tell the world. So I got that bit of a leverage out of it. People have to understand we're going to do this, okay? We are working toward this project and getting it there to commercial scale. Pyro is also
like you said, it's not 2030. It's happening soon.
It's happening this year. Okay, as I said, I signed a pre-offtake agreement, okay, but I fully anticipate that we'll be in the offtake, offtake negotiation and those type of issues. I've already got some people says, oh, I'm looking interesting at financing. It's just that they want us to make us grow. They want us to go everywhere because we can compete anywhere around the world. It's a question now of energy cost and carbon footprint relating to energy cost.
Sorry, you said 30 seconds ago you've signed a pre-offtake agreement?
No, that's the term I gave to the LOI with
okay.
Evonik. You remember, I used that in my investor deck. I said signing of a pre-offtake agreement, which is what the LOI is.
I figured that was all to make sure because like, well, now one number we talk a lot about energy consumption reduction, greenhouse gas reduction. The one that I think we should talk about more is the reduction in Canadian carbon taxes and European carbon taxes, because those are massive. So on the Canadian carbon tax, so that's the third line down, it's between $638 per ton and $1,264 per ton. So let's just take the average. That's about let's say it's going to be $900 less per ton. How big does that factor into the bottom line for
remember
current manufacturers or current users?
That's versus conventional processes. Okay.
Yes,
so
of course.
It's mostly theoretical in Canada because there are no producer of fumed silica in Canada. All right. There's no producer. And contrary to Europe, we do not yet have an import carbon tax. which means you calculate the carbon, which they do have in Europe. But I just wanted to put in perspective, if somebody said, oh, well, I can become a competitor of HPQ with the conventional process, the numbers just would completely kill you. Remember, they have a 20% margin. So it's more important to take a look really at the European carbon tax with regard to their 20% margin.
Was that
So it's,
does that carbon tax savings factor into the EBITDA numbers of between 75 and 91%?
Nope.
So that's on top of that.
Yeah, if you remember in the press release I issued in January, okay, I said, although, okay, there is going to be, people are going to be willing to pay a bit of a premium for a carbon-free material, okay? At this moment, we've taken no, we haven't accounted for that because it's still, in between. In a certain reality, there is an interest, but it's an industrial project. So people are going to say, yes, they're interested in it, but, we won't pay. But what's going to happen is, okay, because our profit margins are so high, we can sell at the same price, and then we're going to have choice. Okay, I have choice A, which is basically zero carbon, or choice B, where I have a massive carbon tax. Genius. I'll go directly with the other one. So it's everything is falling into place. Everything is advancing on schedule. Okay. I understand it's not as fast as some people will want. It's okay with some people to understand how the industry process is, but it's moving forward.
No, clearly, I don't think there are too many people who are complaining about the speed of your process. There are people, shareholders, who would love it if it was faster, just because why not? But I don't think anyone's complaining about the speed at which this is all moving, Bernard. I want to move on to a quote.
Yes.
And if you want, you don't have to share that. You can keep it there if you'd like, but you don't have to keep sharing it.
Okay, so let's remove the share this. Oh, first you should remove share button.
An excerpt. So while you're doing that, excerpt from one of your quotes: "We're poised to disrupt the market by enhancing efficiency and reducing costs, potentially altering the competitive landscape for fumed silica manufacturing." That sounds like we're going to create a paradigm shift. You're saying altering the competitive landscape. It's probably a nice way of saying it, maybe for even regulators or something, but that to me sounds like potentially creating a paradigm shift. Do you think you guys have the ability to create a paradigm shift in the manufacturing of fumed silica, or just a really nice altering of the competitive landscape, whatever that means? Let's dive into that, what you really meant to say there.
Oh, I really meant to say it's a paradigm shift. It's sort of like a tamer version of what I originally wanted to say, but that's okay. That's just the way the ball bounces in this regard. But it is really altering the industry in a certain way. Okay. And this is what's going to be really interesting, is until we start making it. A lot of people that are looking at this as too good to be true. And eventually, once everything is going to be proven and it'll become too big to ignore, it might just be too late for a lot of people. I understand that it sounds like something I've said, but we've advanced it. We're moving forward with our target. We have picked a lot of check mark to get ourselves here, and now we're just presenting, which is really more our internal numbers with regard to energy, and energy being one of our largest costs of making the material. The other indirect advantage it is because you got to remember now that with all the AI that's sucking up energy everywhere in the world, having a process that requires a lot less energy to do a material is also a competitive advantage. Okay, we're talking about cutting down by 90% the energy need to make something that people need on their day-to-day basis life. So it is really going to be a paradigm shift. And it's going to be a paradigm shift that's going to go much further than just fumed silica. Okay. Traditional process to do fumed silica means they buy silicone metal to do it. All right. So that's going to be suddenly, they need 3 tons of quartz to make 1 ton of silicone metal. We'll need probably 1.25 ton to make our fumed silica. So the demand for quartz is going to go down. The demand for silicone metal is going to go down. It's going to be affected by it. companies that are massively vertically integrated, where basically they make polysilicon. So they make the silicon tetrachloride, which is the material needed to make the fumed silica, which is burned, okay? Which basically had this great low margin market to get rid of their shit, and they're going to be stuck with having to pay for waste disposal costs. I don't know. That for me fits into there's so many things that are going to change into it.
Downstream, those are downstream impacts that we'd even
yes,
really
but the
consider. So
downstream,
if
upstream,
Georgecom creates a menu as an offshoot has silica tetrachloride, which is now I'm stuck with it,
now you have to
right?
pay the
I'm
you
stuck
have
with
to
that.
pay to
Now I
get
got to
rid of it.
find a way to get rid of that.
Mhm.
So you may have downstream partners who may want to buy you or do something or whatever the case is. Can we,
The
now that
business
we're
cases
so
are.
close,
Mhm.
you put out these numbers and you got this LOI with Evonik and you're so close. Q3 is right here. We're going to talk about that in a second, but are we close enough now that you can start to have a conversation that your fume silica disruptive process is right up there with the same impact as the likes of a Netflix and the impact it had on streaming movies and TV shows, Spotify, and what it did in terms of disrupting music? Do you think that this is on the same level? And not, by the way, I want to be clear for everyone home. I'm not saying that I'm not talking about market caps. I'm not saying that you're going to have a Netflix market cap of several $100 billion. I'm just talking about the same disruptive impact that they had on and Spotify had. Is it, are we close enough now that we can have that conversation, or do you want to wait a little bit longer?
No, I've always known that we had the disruptive impact, but I've also always known that talking about the disruptive impact when you're still, when last year we started to talk about it, but we hadn't validated that we made the stuff. We validated we made the stuff. Now we're building a pilot plant. So that's why it's also incremental in our disclosure in a certain ways, like, and that's the way this program. But no, it is for that industrial process. It is massive. Look at the EBITDA of three-quarters. I'm listening more to financial numbers. Industrial companies' EBITDAs are small. Okay. Now, of course, fumed silica is a part of a big enterprise. So, does it fluctuate or move or not move the needle for the big company? I remember in the silicon metal, for all the linguist purists out there, in the silicon metal industry, I remember the CFO of one of our competitors, Ferroglobe, is basically mentioning having a small market where you get its selling price 10 times higher, or in our case, an EBITDA, 90 times higher. Okay, doesn't really move the needle in a billion-dollar company, but for us, it's a massive needle to play. Now, in this specific case, because the change is so enormous, right? We basically we are exploding away all the barriers to entry to one industry. Okay. Which means that now somebody has a quartz deposit can say, oh, I'll work with you to get this going and can become a competitor. Before, these guys didn't have to worry about having competitors. Okay. They had 4 or 5 people competitor, they have a few clients, few of those issues, they didn't have too much to play into it. Now, a lot of people could theoretically enter the fumed silica business and compete with them if they're using our technology, licensing for us, paying us revenues for it. So there's the monetization strategies are sort of endless, okay? And they're coming much more into reality now. So if you look at the milestones we've reached, okay, we've demonstrated we make the material, and I said we just have to make the material. There's no competitive difference between brand A to brand Z in this market. A fumed silica of this, this amorphous or type of material, no issue about it. So
yeah, big conglomerates do get comfortable. They can get comfortable for multiple decades. But look, even right now, we're seeing that OpenAI is testing and soon to launch Search ChatGPT, which is significantly better from what the looks of it is than Google search. So even the likes of Google can't get comfortable all the time, let alone industrial manufacturers and what you're doing here. So, all right. We'll save that conversation for Netflix, Spotify. I'll keep bringing it up every once in a while until you get to the point when you can say, yeah, now we can actually, right now, we are.
I thought I've already sort of said yes, but there's gonna be more incremental improvement toward that, but we're in that direction.
You have this LOI with Evonik, obviously. We're all happy about that. Everyone loves that. What are next steps? How's that going? And we're in Q3, so what are next steps with Evonik and your relationship and the actual
as I keep telling some investors that call me and some people that talk to me, it's like they're even more impatient than most retail investors to see the material works, because they fully understand that this is a Netflix moment. Okay. And since as sort of a position, we don't want to sign ourselves until we really understand what we have. Okay. then we got to get this moved. All of us. So everybody's on the same line. We'll be making the material. Once we start making the material, there'll be other type of exciting discussions.
I know you said it earlier, but just want to really be specific. You're on target here in Q3 because we're midway through Q3. It's August, the middle of August for all intents and purposes. Q3 ends at the end of September. You're pretty comfortable that you're on target here. What's going on there?
Everything, just check. Everything's still on target to respect the timeline we presented in our last press release.
All right. That's all I've got on this end. I don't know if I've missed anything but this is another great press release, and just you saying there 45 seconds ago or so that Evonik is even more impatient than your shareholders because they recognize this may be a Netflix moment. I think that may be the takeaway. I don't even want to ask you anything more. I think that's enough right there. But last words to you. Is there anything that maybe we haven't covered, I haven't talked about here that you think is important, or did I do such an amazing job that you don't need to say anything more?
I should find something to say so your head doesn't explode. But no, I think that covers it. But remember, HPQ is not just fumed silica. We have many horse. What's the term? Many one horse pony or those type of things.
Bernieism.
We have that has to be a Bernieism. There has to be a Bernieism. Oh, those some people starting to quote some Georgiism that you're doing too.
Yeah. I had one where I said you got a ace on the sleeve or something like that, and the correct term was an ace up your sleeve. I know I said ace you got an ace in your sleeve, and someone corrected me on a Gorcom that said, George, you did Georgism because you should have said an ace up your sleeve. So yes, I am guilty of that too. But it sounds like what's great about this, Bernard. It's the middle of August. It's lazy times for most investors and companies, but you are just keep pushing the envelope further and further, and this horse amongst the other horses in your stable is really running, and we're excited. And every Tuesday, Wednesday, I start thinking, am I getting the call from Bernard asking me if I'm going to be available for an interview tomorrow?
I am trying to mix the schedule so I can surprise people, but there's not too many.
I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask something because obviously I'm an old school veteran in this industry, right? 27 years now. April 23rd, 1997 is when I launched Agora. Monday morning press releases used to be the gold standard. If George Com Resources had something to say important, they waited until Monday morning.
You mean when we used to be sending faxes
in the morning and it would start? You don't do Monday morning press releases. How come?
Well, I think people Monday morning are not really awake on the concept. Remember at that time, it was like everything was coming to the fax, rolling into the brokers. I started in '93 being a broker for a little while. Everything was coming into the fax machine with that paper, rolling into it, rolling into it, rolling into it. It was like, oh, I don't know. We probably get set in a routine from, from Tuesday to Thursday time frame. In our specific case, it's because our press releases are a bit longer to do for the simple reason I have to do them twice. Okay. So in every one of my press releases, I have to write them. Okay. And in this specific case, if it's a fumed silica or it's a pyrogenesis, I have to send it to pyrogenesis for them to verify, that I don't see stupid scientific things. That I have all the numbers. They have to approve it. Once they approve it, then I have to translate it. Translate it is fundamentally like rewriting press releases. Okay, there's a lot of great AI into it, but I always figure out doing screw. To be totally honest, like the new technologies are making it easier to do it, but you still have to do it twice. When you're a company in Quebec, you end up doing twice the same work as a company that's in Vancouver. So you're sort of more limited on time in that regard.
Oh, that probably. So you've got a bit of a production process on your press release. By the way, a common friend of ours, I won't mention the name of the company because obviously it's not their interview, but a common friend of ours, a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, had a really great strategy of putting out big important press releases on Sunday night at like 8 o'clock, because that's when everyone's kind of settling in from the weekend. Investors are kind of checking out their socials, and I found that was a great strategy as well, because you get this great buzz going, on Sunday night, and you get this momentum into Monday morning. So if you ever want to consider a different, different surprise, just don't call me on a Sunday morning. Ask me if I'm ready for an interview on Monday. That's all. Let me at least have my weekends, pal.
Especially during NFL season, I really can't reach you.
You know what? I'm sad to say that the Dallas Cowboys look like they're going to have a terrible year. And I'm a Cowboy fan, and you know that. And that's why Sundays is NFL day. But so if you want to interrupt me on Sunday, anytime, buddy, because at the end of the day, like my dad used to tell me, the Dallas Cowboys ain't going to send you a check if they win. So, HPQ Silicon, that's gonna, that's gonna be some money in the bank. So if everything goes well. So thanks for a great interview again, my friend. This is awesome. Continue the great work. Congratulate everyone at Pyro, because we know you're not a one-man shop either. So you've got a great partner there. And say hello to Evonik from all of us. Tell them we appreciate them. Say hello to them. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great day. See you next time.
Hey Small Cap fam, I hope you loved this interview because more than a dozen people were involved in its production for the sole purpose of making you happy. If so, can you take a moment to support both our awesome guest company and Agora.com? Your engagement means the world to us. First, if you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up by tapping that like button. It's a small gesture that helps this interview reach even more potential investors to discover today's guest. Second, we would love to hear your feedback on this interview, so please leave a comment below. Be sure to keep it clean, but feel free to poke fun at George. If you loved what you heard on today's video and want to dig into our guest company right away, take a look at the links in the description below. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to never miss another great Agora.com small cap video. Thank you so much. We couldn't do any of this without you. Make sure to come back soon.